Hi there, just providing some help with the 4E preview. So for this one, the first thing you want to do is set up your data set using the applet that they provided, and then they're going to introduce what's called a z-score. So let me go ahead and walk you through that. So the first thing it says to do is to go to this applet, and we're going to go to the single group tab for movie runtime. So I'm going to do that first, and then we're going to go to movie runtime. And the first thing that it wants us to do is to describe the shape of the data set. And for that, you're either thinking symmetric or skewed. If I look at the shape of the data, it looks like I have almost the same thing I see on the left-hand side as the right-hand side if I don't include that bar. So I would say that's roughly symmetric. So that kind of lets me know the shape should be roughly symmetric. And then bimodal or unimodal, all right, how many prominent peaks do we have? Now, this one, there's really only one prominent peak. Okay, yeah, we have another peak here, but as far as prominent peaks go, there's only one, so we would say unimodal for that. Okay, so then the next part, so that should help you figure out number one. The next part, hope I didn't select the answer there. Go ahead and hit submit. Good. All right. The next one, you're going to find the mean and the standard deviation. As a reminder, you can always find that in the descriptive statistics above. So we have sample size is 126, the mean is 91, and the standard deviation is 11.8. So that's what we're focused on. A mean of 91 minutes. So that means the average movie lasts 91 minutes. And then 11.8 for standard deviation, meaning that if I were to randomly pick one movie from this data set, I'd typically be away from 91 by about 11.8 minutes. Like that's our typical distance from the mean. That's standard deviation. All right, so now what we're going to do is describe standard deviations when we think about, again, a typical distance from the mean. So how do we find one standard deviation above and below? Well, if I take 11.8 and I add it to 91, that'll give me the value above, which is 102.8. If I take 91 and I subtract 11.8, that'll get me 79.2, right? So try to do the same thing for part B. I'm going to leave that for you just so I don't do the whole assignment for you. But this time add it twice and then subtract it twice and see what you get. All right. And now it does say round to the nearest tenth. So make sure you are rounding to the nearest tenth like you have here. All right. Cool. Now in 4, they introduce you to your first z-score value. Okay. Now what a z-score is it tells you how many standard deviations you are away from the mean, the center of the data, right? And so they introduce you to that in this paragraph. I know this is a lot of words for a preview assignment, but just keep it simple, right? If you have a z-score of negative 2.3, that means your value. Like let's say you were watching Lion King and the movie runtime for that is 80 minutes, all right? I'm making that up, right? And let's say 80 minutes is 2.3 standard deviations below the mean, right? So I basically would take the standard deviation value, multiply it by 2.3, and subtract it from the mean, right? That's what your z-score is. It just kind of tells you where you are either far below or far above the mean. Okay, so for this first one, I think once you see an example, it'll make a little more sense. For this first one, we have a z-score for the movie 101 Dalmatians that we're trying to find, and it has a length of 103 minutes. So it says how many standard deviations from the mean is this value. So I'm going to open up the Desmos calculator app, and you can just Google it. The first thing that comes up is your Desmos calculator app, and I'm going to go ahead and actually follow their steps for calculating the standard deviation. So I'm going to follow their formula that they provided. All right, so the first part of the formula, it says you need to take your x value. For this problem, the x value is the amount of minutes, 103 minutes. So in the calculator, the first thing you want to do is create a ratio, like a fraction, by hitting the division symbol. And on the top, go ahead and write 103. I think I said 103. Yep, 103 minutes. All right, cool. Now the next part of the formula says you need to subtract the mean. We need to subtract mu. Okay, so in this case, to subtract the mean, our mean is 91, right? So we're going to take 103 and subtract 91. All right. Then the last part of the formula in the z-score value is to divide by the standard deviation. All right, so that's our last step. Remember, our standard deviation was 11.8, so I'm going to divide by 11.8. Cool. And when I do that, I get 1.0169, right? And that's going to be my z-score for 101 Dalmatians. So that tells you that the runtime of 103 minutes is 1.0169 standard deviations above the mean. All right. So when I go to my answer for this, I want to make sure I round to the nearest second decimal place. So that would be 1.02. Let's double check it. And yep, 1.02 should be your answer. And so you're going to fill in the blank with saying the movie's runtime is approximately 1.02 standard deviations above the mean, right? If this value was a negative, you would have to say below the mean, because it would say you would infer that you're looking at a value below the mean. Okay, so that's the basic idea of a standard deviation. I think that'll really help clear out part B and then the other values as well, with how to interpret. Okay, if you need any more help, just send me an email and then just let me know what specific question you need help with, and I can kind of help you a little bit more in depth. So yeah, hopefully this helps, and have a good one. Thanks, bye.